We are almost to the finish line on tonight's episode, but we may have just saved the best for last. So we've got more Olga, more relationship talks, and we're going to get a lot of wisdom poured out in this last window for you. So get your pen and paper ready. Hopefully your hand's not cramping yet, but if it is, you're actually obeying what we want you to do. And so we're going to start talking about building these relationships. So Olga, my question for you, what do you believe are some of the key elements to building a long-term relationship, based on trust? And how do you get the clients to see that and go beyond just you have a product or service that they want?
Well, I think a long-term client relationship starts with empathy. Because when you listen and you really and genuinely care about their needs, is when they feel the transparency and they build like the trust that that you are trying to show them. Okay, and I think also it's the proactive thinking of how can we partners and not just like service providers. We can help you and we empathize with you. We are authentic, we are just regular human beings just like you, and we can understand your needs. So that's how you start building long-term relationships, because they become friends. Like, I have clients that they are friends of mine, not because, oh, my beautiful face. No, it's because we build this beautiful empathetic relationship between the two of us, like between the client and the service provider.
I like that. They can immediately pick up from you that I'm invested in your success. I don't want you to fail. Your success is my success. And to kind of spiral off that, one of the things we do is when we do that initial client interview and stuff like that, we really ask, like, why are you even in this business? What are you looking to get out of it? What are your goals? What are your frustrations, your pain points? And most of the time, they don't get that question from people. And now they realize, like, whoa, you're going immediately into a deeper level, and that can develop relationships. Olga, have you ever been with a client through a difficult time of theirs? Maybe they were facing bankruptcy, or who knows, a death or a divorce, or outside personal circumstances that affected their business and their finances, and you weathered the storm with them. Did that develop trust and loyalty?
Yes, definitely it did, and it happened in the pandemic, Ryan. When
Yes.
COVID hit, a lot of accountants were charging the clients to fill out the forms for the for the loans that the government issued, and it was chaotic. Nobody knows what we went through on those those months. But we understood that our clients, they were also struggling, not only to understand what was going on with their businesses, but also that they didn't have the time to learn all these forms and everything. So what we did it for free. Okay, because we understood, we put ourselves in their shoes. They didn't have any money. Their businesses were shut down. So I think when you do those things to your clients, they also understand your flaws. Okay, and that's how you build those relationships, because it's not only like money.
I like that. I call that relationship capital. Is that you did something, you stuck your neck out there for somebody, and they remember that, right? And they
Mhm.
remember that. Things get tight in the beginning, or you have to make a difficult decision, or hey, I'm changing my line of service because it's just not working out, and it affects them. They understand that because of that relationship capital. So that's really good. So you have these established relationships, a lot of them through some type of crisis, like we just talked about. Well, then how do you go about identifying and pursuing new relationships, especially ones that you think are going to be growth minded and they're going to be some form, they're not legal partners with you, but they're going to partner up in the way that you do business and the way the relationship is conducted. So it's mutually beneficial on both sides. How do you like level up by identifying those new types of relationships?
But basically, we do what you do. Like, we ask the right questions, Ryan. You need to be curious with your clients. You need to ask them and try to understand what their needs are. And it's not only like in the service providers or the service realm, but also when you are trying to sell a product. Like, you need to listen to your clients, your customers, so you can build that relationship. So don't stay only on the front. Like, ask them the questions, be curious, ask the right question, not ask the question, ask the right questions, so you can build that momentum and that relationship with your clients.
I like that so much. So you said two things that really rang like a bell is asking the right questions. And I'm going to deviate on a real quick story is in my detective years, I happened to be a very successful detective. I had the highest clearance rate out of any detective. And one of the veterans came up to me and asked me, how the heck do you do that? How do you sweet talk all of these people into these confessions over some pretty darn serious stuff? And I said the one thing, I was like, well, one, I actually care about their outcome. And two, and I was like, I ask the right questions. See, the average accountant and the average detective will go out there and just the facts, man. And they would just want to know your numbers, or they would just want to know where you were at what time and what place and what you were wearing, right? And I asked a different set of questions that gave more into the care, more into the person and why, what were you thinking, and things like that. And I think what you just said is that's what identifies it. If the person doesn't care about me asking those questions, hey, just how much is the tax return? How much is your service? Well, they're compliance minded. They see me as an expense line on the income statement, right? And that's not the type of client I want. I want the relationship client. So you're really ringing out true. I think when you said ask the right questions, and again, that's cross industry, whether you own a landscaping business, you're mowing lawns, you're building houses, you're pulling teeth, right? Making sure you have the right client is important in all those categories. So thank you. Thank you for saying that. And then the next thing you said kind of follows the same line. It says, be curious with your clients, right? Curiosity may just be you're a big nerd, but it also shows that, like, I want to know more. I want to know more. And people feel the empathy saying, okay, they actually do care about me. And that just ripples back into everything you've said tonight. And those two things kind of ring out to me. So now you've asked the right questions and you start getting this client feedback. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where it's like, hey, there's a couple of things I'm not doing, or I could maybe even change and pivot just a little bit to better serve my clients based on their feedback? Other than the survey you send out everywhere, maybe more organically because it's a relationship, how do you respond to that client feedback when they say, hey, could you try doing this? Or hey, can you help me in an area? It's right on the fringe of what your scope is and what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, that's a tough one, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes you don't expect that, okay? But I think with authenticity and naturality, I don't know if that's the English word for that, but everything it's like natural. It needs to be natural in the business for the good or for the bad. Okay, so for when the clients ask you those questions, or and when the clients give you that type of feedback, you need to do it like naturally. You need to treat it like, okay, honesty, let's sit down, let's dig it up, let's start finding the right answers to it. So don't be scared about that, because that's part of the business. That's how you grow. If everything is, beautiful in your business, there's something wrong.
I like that. If everything is beautiful in your business, or something, hold on, I'm going to write that down. If everything is beautiful in your business, something is wrong. I love that. Maybe you're just a naive person, right? So, okay, I love that. All right, so that's really good, and I think that's true. And so, if somebody comes in and they're rocking the boat a little bit, not with malicious intent, but because hey, I want more out of you, or hey, I got these cool things going on in my situation. Can you handle it? Maybe that's not normally what we handle. You tell them that you be organic. Hey, that's kind of outside my wheelhouse,
Yeah,
but
natural.
maybe I've got a guy or a girl that can help you with that. We've come in. I don't like to ask too easy of questions on the show because I think the audience gets more out of watching our faces frown and figure it out. But something that we've tried too is we're like, hey, look, I want you to understand that that is not the normal process that we do. That's outside of scope. It's not exactly our area of expertise. But yes, we can actually handle that for you. But I want to hear you say out loud, you understand that this is an exception to the rule. You can't go tell your friends that we do this. You can't expect me to ever do it again. I'm going to do it this one time as an exception because I can get it done for you. You're in some type of urgent crunch, and we're going to help you out because you trust us and we trust you. But listen, this will not be a regular thing. And don't go telling Billy Bob down the street that we do this for a living because it's going to steal away from what we actually like to focus on. And people usually respect that and they really get excited when you say, hey, I'm going to allow an exception for you. And that helps us deepen the relationship as well. So, kind of the last question of the night, another softball, right? So, difficult conversations. You've got
Oh,
some unmet expectation. You got a client that says, "Hey, I want a relationship to change," or "I'm trying to push your boundaries," and maybe they're not as professional as you like. Give us one way that we can handle a difficult conversation in a relationship that's already established.
well, I follow Phil Jones, okay, and he has a book called Exactly What to Say. And in his books, he says something really smart. The worst moment to think about what you're going to say is the moment you're going to say it.
Mm.
And I love that quote because when you have a business, you need to practice for those difficult conversations. Okay, write down a script because I do it. Like, what happens if this happens? What happens if this happens? What's going to be my reaction to it? We need to listen and validate the client and what they're gonna have to say about us. Okay, so be ready for the conversations and not in your mind. Like, think about it and say it out loud so you can start practicing for those difficult client conversations because they're gonna happen. Okay, I've had ton of them. That's
Yep.
a fact. Okay,
I love
so tough conversations build deeper relationships.
I love it. So that's a perfect spot for me to jump in here tonight because you want to have a plan and have practice the plan is basically the best way to handle those difficult conversations. That goes right along. I have a whole system about uncomfortable conversations and the 3 layers, and I'm not going to go into that for the sake of time. But if we want to find more about you, we want to find out about your services. We love your brain. So we want more of your brain. How can somebody find you? Tell us where to find you.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Olga Hurtado. You can find my face there, so you can friend me, or follow me. We can have also a conversation via email at customersuccess@neatbooksllc.com, or you can follow me in my Instagram, Business Secret Ingredient.
Much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. For everyone else out there, I just want to remind you to go out into the world and see the change and be the change. We'll catch you next time on Pivotal Change.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.